Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs. Hi guys, today's episode is episode number 18. It's all about the power of momentum. Momentum shows up in every single area of our lives. No matter what area it is, it shows up. So we are going to really create this conversation around becoming aware of what's happening in your life and how things are actually moving in your favor, whether you realize it or not. So we hope you enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome back. We're so happy that you're here. Today we are talking all about the power of momentum. Momentum is so important in your life, in your business, your relationships, and this is going to be one of those episodes where you may have to watch or listen to a bunch of times to really understand what can happen in your life when you use that power of momentum.
Yes, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about is momentum, because I feel like once you get clear on what momentum is and how to use it positively in your life, it's a game changer. And you know that whole hustle movement, and then you see, I saw you post a picture that says cross out hustle and align. I feel like this is when you align. When you align, here buddy, when you align with, get in alignment with yourself and with what you're doing, and you allow enough time to happen in between, that's when momentum starts to really make it effortlessly happen.
Exactly. So that new thing where, okay, hustle, grind, blah, 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 you're constantly working. Really, yes, consistency is important, but hustling and feeling like you're doing things to kind of push and make things happen doesn't have to be exactly like that.
Yes. When you have momentum on your side, instead of like pushing and trying to force things to happen, it's more of like it's pulling you. Mm-hmm. It's like you're riding a wave.
Yeah, exactly. At the very beginning of my business, Tony knows because he lived with me during this time, I remember I was working more hours because I actually enjoyed putting things together for my website and that sort of thing. But there were moments where I felt like it was a struggle because I was learning new things with technology. So that piece to it, the technology piece, was more of a struggle. So I did have to put some time into figuring things out. Once I stayed consistent with that, I really started to get some systems in place and momentum was on my side. So I had put in the time and energy into kind of building it up. And now it is like that wave that you were talking about where I feel like I'm riding the wave of the flow of the business. It's being done for me.
Exactly. And I've watched exactly what she was saying. It's funny how she's describing it because I watched it happen. It was like at the beginning, she's like swimming and it's kind of like a current going against her. She's swimming against the current and I could see it on her face and her bags underneath her eyes and everything. And then once she broke through, it was like instead of going towards the current, she just like, hey, let me just flow with it. Yeah. And then she started to ride it and it's carried her till this day. And of course this goes up and down, because that's the law of, I forget what they call the name, but it's like the law of rhythm. It's like energy is always going up and down. It never just stays like this. That's when you're dead. Mm-hmm. It's always up and down. But the more that you understand this and apply habits into your life to create momentum, the more that your momentum will be at a high. And what I mean by that is like positively impacting your life. Because let's be clear here. Momentum is always happening in your life. Mm-hmm. It's just the average person, I would say, it's hard to say numbers, but maybe 8 out of 10 people in this world, they have negative momentum in most areas in their life. So momentum is happening all the time. It's just, I look at it like vortexes. It's like you're either in a negative vortex or a positive vortex. And from there, it naturally attracts its kind to it.
Yeah. And knowing that momentum, being aware of it, is having faith that it's going to work out even when you can't see what's actually happening around you, that energy moving around you. And I think that's the big thing where people think that they're putting in all this effort and nothing's happening, but it is just waiting
or not really waiting, but just enjoying the journey and knowing that and expecting it's going to happen. And I feel like that comes back with quantum physics, that quantum leap. And I actually wrote down a quote from Bruce Lipton. What quantum physics teaches us is that everything we thought was physical is actually not physical. So the things that we create in our life is actually starting with the belief and the feeling through thought. So we're very clear on what it is that we want in our life, business, and relationships. And then all of a sudden we think, oh, this manifested out of nowhere. But actually, you have been working with momentum. The universe has been working for you. God, whatever you want to call it, has been working for you to become aware of what's been in front of you.
Absolutely. So let's put this into context. So like this works in your relationships, in your career, in anything that you're doing. You have either, I look at it like it's black and white, but of course there's like levels of negativity and levels of positivity. But in your relationships, career, and every area of your life, you have either positive momentum or negative momentums. For example, with your wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, your relationship either has a positive momentum in it or a negative momentum, because I feel like it's always going one way or the other. And I know with me and Lindsay's relationship over the last year, starting in May 2017, we started to work full time together. And over this last year, we did a lot of steps together, working, building PowerPoints, building different sales funnels, like everything that entails that our business entails. And what happened was, over the last year, Lindsay will agree too, I'm sure, that our relationship has increased. Like it already had positive momentum, but now it's at a new level of positive momentum.
It is.
Than it ever has before. And I feel like that occurred through all of the steps that we did over the last year. And I want that to be clear, that momentum is created through the simple habits that you perform on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes Tony will remind me, look at how many steps you've taken to get to this point. Let's just enjoy that and reflect on that. Look at how many steps that it's taken to get to where we are. Sometimes it's easy to forget the things that you've done to get to where you are. And also, just listening to this podcast or watching the video, you may think, oh, that's so easy for them. They could just get on video and do this. No, there's a lot of steps that go into this. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of resistance at the beginning of the podcast with technology, trying to figure out the right camera. And then once it was set up and the system was in place, it flowed. But the one thing that I was just thinking of is, at the beginning of relationships, normally you're on a high. Do you notice that at the very beginning of relationship, when you first get into a relationship, you feel so in love and you're so excited about everything, and you start to notice that maybe your good friends are like, wait, where are you? Why aren't you spending as much time with me? It's natural. You get the resistance from the outside, or maybe they're excited for you, but they notice there's a shift in your energy and there's something that's kind of stirred up. But you need to put in more effort at the very beginning of your relationship to set up the foundation. That's exactly how it is for business too. For entrepreneurship, you might have to put in a little bit more of that consistent energy and set up systems. And then you can allow yourself to flow with it. And that's part of the process of momentum. You have to have some sort of foundation. And I think getting clear on that is the most important thing, and getting clear on the feeling that you want to experience when it comes to the momentum in your life. And what is it that you want to tap into? What do you want to see results in? So think about that while you're listening to us. What is one area that you would love to become aware of that you are actually building momentum?
I love that, because that's so important to get clear on each area of your life and what kind of momentum you have in each area of your life. Mm-hmm. So for example, if with the person you're living with, your life partner, if you're struggling right now and you want to create some momentum positively in that relationship, then you could start with something as simple as doing one thing that you know they want you to do.
And you don't even have to tell them.
You don't tell them, no. So like with Lindsay, it was me shutting cabinets. Because she gets, it's so little, but like
that's
all
so
the
annoying.
little things compound, which I'm going to talk about the compound effect in a second here. They compound and they create huge results, which it creates momentum negatively. So like me leaving cabinets open. You know, the first month we're together, okay, Tony, shut the cabinets. You know, it keeps happening for 6 months. Then her facial expressions start to change when she's talking to me about it.
Starts
and
twitching.
6 years later, it's like there's been a couple of explosions on me. I don't know specifically for the cabinets, but I know the cabinets had led to an explosion. There might have been some other things.
Maybe like tripping over shoes or
But
something.
my point here is it's simple little habits. Yeah, the shoes part, you
Oh
really
my
get mad.
gosh,
I leave
it's
my
so
shoes
frustrating.
in random spots. I don't try to. It's something I do unconsciously.
I
And
trip
Lindsay will be
over them.
backing up and just like, you know, fall to the right or like trip over it, and she gets really mad. So it sounds so funny right now and we're laughing, but look, these are little things that could really cause divorce in the end. As funny as it is,
I know, it's
like,
crazy.
It's not just one of them, it's a million things. So like you look within the million habits that you have with your relationship with your life partner and figure out which one can I just change.
Yeah.
Like, let me start putting my shoes away. Let me start shutting the cabinets. You know, little things, and don't overwhelm yourself. Start simple, because it's the simple habits that compound over time that create massive results that stem from the momentum. So there's a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and this book helped for me to get very clear on this topic, that momentum is a real live energy, and that it's through your simple habits that you perform on a daily basis, your habits with your relationships, with your career, with your health, with everything in your life, your thought life, that create the results in your life. And he calls it the big mo in that book, and it's momentum.
It is an amazing book, and there's actual mathematical equations in it that will cause you to think about this and think, wow, this is actually math. This is proven. This is real.
This is science. Like, this is like cause and effect. This is like, if I took a lighter and, you know, lit my shirt, it would catch on fire eventually. It's just cause and effect. If you do specific things in a specific way, like if you have certain habits, like for your health, I could take somebody right now who say they don't work out at all and they don't really pay attention to how they eat, they don't drink enough water, and I could be like, hey, look, okay, so we're going to work out 3 days a week, 30 minutes per day. I don't care what you do, but you have to move. Like, you have to either walk or skip or whatever you can do, and stick with the 3 days per week, 30 minutes per day, and do that over 6 months. Do that over a year. Of course, I don't tell them that right away. I say, hey, let's start with a week. But what will happen is that simple 3-day, 30 minutes per day habit will compound over time. And then within 6 months, within a year, you're going to have a whole new body. And what's even better about this is you're going to have a whole new mindset as well.
Yeah.
All from those simple habits. So simple habits create momentum. And momentum is a real life energy. And some people could call it God or the universe taking over. But you could call it whatever you want. The fact is, it's real. You see it in sports. If you're ever watching a sporting event, especially the playoffs when it gets really intense, whether it's basketball or football or softball or no matter what, and you're watching your team or your race car driver, you're watching your favorite race car driver, you could sense, when you're in tune with these people, you could sense when they lost momentum. Mm-hmm. And you could sense when they have momentum. In baseball, when they have momentum, it's like, so say my team doesn't have momentum and my team's up to bat. Somebody will hit a line drive that it would be a hit any other day. But of course, since they don't have the energy of momentum on the side in the very moment, the other team's in the exact precise spot to catch the ball and it's an out instead of a hit. So understand that whenever you don't have momentum on your side in a specific area, you might be doing all the right things, but you might be striking out every single time.
Right.
And understand that it is, as long as you're doing the right habits every single day, just continue to focus on those habits and allow the law of momentum to come back on your side. And then if you focus on your habits, it will come back on your side.
Yes. And as you were talking about that, I don't want to interrupt your flow because you're in complete flow right there. It reminded me of mediumship. So if you are a medium listening to this podcast, think about when you're in the middle of doing your readings or intuitive readings. When you're doing intuitive readings, you have to be, you're in a flow, you're have that energy of momentum on your side. And once your thoughts get in the way, it could knock you out of that mode. So when I do messages from heaven events, when I'm in a flow, I'm in a flow. When I get in my head, it's almost like I get knocked out of that momentum and I have to put myself back into that energy. So, and it's like every area of your life. Have you ever had something happen where everything's going amazing with this new relationship and one little thing causes a little argument and you're like, oh great, now everything's going to go downhill? No, you got to pick yourself back up again, become aware of the energy that's right there and tap back into it and get on that frequency. And there's the law of averages. We always talk about this in our business too, where while you build up this consistency, you start to notice there's actual numbers that bring in a pattern. So
like your sales numbers.
Yes, like the sales numbers in the business. Every week we have a meeting about the business every Friday. And we have the sheet that we fill out every time, and we start to notice the averages from the week before, or maybe we compare months from, last January and how they relate to this January, and overall the annual growth, how it's been affected. And I feel like when you look at these numbers and you start to realize it, it's prove even more that momentum is working. But also there's a point where you have these quantum leaps where you're building up this consistency in whatever you're doing, but you have this massive shift that is heightened, like crazy. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? That just happened out of nowhere. No, it didn't. You've actually been building up to that point.
Yes.
Do you want to speak more about quantum?
Yeah, so you got to realize all of the work that you've done previously led you to this moment, and that's why it seems so easy right now. It's not this easy for everybody. You have to pay your price. Your price is performance simple habits, the right habits. Like you have to find the right habits, like with working out, with business. Like if I'm building a business but I'm doing all the wrong things, well, guess what? I could keep doing those wrong things and it'll cause frustration and build negative momentum. So find people that know what they're talking about, and then figure out the right habits that work for you in every area and perform them over time. And then you build that positive momentum. And then when the day comes to where, oh, we're doing a podcast, but this seems so easy to us. Well, guess what? It's easy to me and Lindsay right now because we put in our time. Like, we taught in the public school systems. We went to college on how to educate people. This has really been who Lindsay was, in high school and middle school, and who I was. Like, looking back, I always was a teacher. So all the times I was teaching my friends the basketball drills when I was in elementary school and middle school, like, it all built me for this right now. That's why when you get in alignment with who you really are, you'll realize that you've already took a million steps to build yourself to get into alignment in your career, and then your career seems easy to you, to most people, but in all reality, if you're 30 years old, you've been working for it for 29 years.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to add too with what Lindsay was saying is that momentum is thoughtless. It's just like when you're in the zone. The reason why you get in the zone is because you have momentum on your side, and you notice that when you're in the zone, whether when you're doing a reading or whatever it is that you're doing, you're not thinking. So remember that momentum is thoughtless. So you want to get in that thoughtless, intuitive acting mode.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like you're on autopilot. And I feel like the fancy word is momentum, and the meaning of momentum is just movement, just keeping it moving. Just do something. Like Tony says, consistency of 30 minutes a day. He's talking about working out. That's his thing. For me, it's actually reminding me in the book, The Compound Effect, there's an example of two friends, maybe possibly even three friends that are hanging out together. And one of them was eating a cookie with his lunch every day. Do you remember this story? And what they decided to do was he consistently ate the cookie with his lunch or with his dinner every day for a year. And then the other friend decided to take away the cookie and then maybe add 30 minutes of working out. I don't know exactly what they did. Maybe an apple
or something.
Yeah, maybe an apple.
I forget exactly the details.
Something like that happened. And just by doing that every day, that small little habit of taking away the cookie and adding an apple or adding something else, it actually caused him to lose, I don't know how much weight, but he was more energized. He lost a bunch of weight, and his friend, on the other hand, had something totally different as an effect happening for him. So it's interesting to think about these little tiny habits that can take place. So if you're looking at people outside of yourself and thinking, how did they get to this point? It wasn't just falling into their lap. They actually are doing something differently that you might not be doing. Or maybe you're doing something and you're thinking, wow, all this stuff is working in my favor. It's amazing. I feel so good about this. Really take time to think about, what did you do to get to this point? What are those small steps that you did to get here?
Because then when you are clear on that, then you appreciate the moment even more. You appreciate what you have even more, because you realize how much work it actually took, and you realize how valuable it actually is to you.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. That's so true.
So what can we give them now? Maybe we could give them some different, or what are some action steps? Let's think about this. What are some action steps that we took in order to create momentum in our relationship, in order to create momentum in our career, in order to create momentum? So let's start with career. So like some action steps we took. Well, when me and Lindsay first started talking, I was in school still. So I was going to the University of South Florida, and I was completing my degree in education. Well, at the time, I can remember having the feeling of not having much momentum in my career. Because here I am, I was, 24 years old, and I had went to school previously, but I changed my major, and I was still trying to figure out what I was doing, and I had a lawn care business a year before. So like I felt like I was going in circles in my career-wise. So looking back, I didn't have much positive. I had positive momentum in it, but I didn't have much clarity or as much positive momentum as I have now in my career. Now I am crystal clear. I only do one thing pretty much, and I know I'll do it the rest of my life. I wasn't at that point then, so I felt it. And at that point, it was hard for me some days to go to school, I remember.
Yeah.
It was like it was like I was in the process of creating this momentum. And I felt it, but I felt like I knew I was supposed to go to school, so I just kept doing it. So there's going to be times to where you might be doing something and it might not feel like you have the momentum on your side, but you also know intuitively that this is what you're supposed to be doing in the moment. So just keep doing it, and then eventually the tides will turn.
Yeah, and I want to interrupt you for a second, because I remember there was a moment when you were feeling like you were trying to get into that energy of being excited about it. And you said to me, should I just stop doing this and just make it easier on myself? And I don't know what you said for like a response. And I'm like, no. And you knew deep down that you weren't going to stop going to school. But that's actually a good point to bring up, because if you're not sure about something, or your energy isn't completely, the foundation isn't fully built, it's easy to be swayed back and forth by your own decisions or other people. But you knew, luckily, like intuitively, like, okay, I just got to finish this. Once I finish it, it's going to be better. And it was amazing.
And that's it. And that's why you have to trust yourself on your intuition, or like tune into your intuition and figure out, is this what I'm supposed to be doing, even if I feel resistant towards it. And a lot of my resistance back then was because I consider myself more introverted, and I knew that becoming a teacher and putting myself out there like that, it was going to change my whole life. And it did. And it changed my whole life for the better. And I knew that at the time I was scared of it, but at the time I knew intuitively that, no, once I come through this, it's like the cave you fear to enter is where all the treasure is. That's what Bob Proctor always says. And I knew that if I kept going through it, that eventually I'd reach my treasure. And now I've reached it. And I'm not saying that, I've reached the top. No, there's levels to this. Like, it's never ending. But I'm very clear in my career, and maybe there's other areas of my life that I'm working on. But I know I have these tools in my back pocket on how to work on them and how to create momentum in any area I want. And I understand that you could have you could have a baseball team that doesn't have as much talent as the other baseball team. Or you could have a medium who's not as talented as one medium. But this medium who's not as talented, I'll say, they understand momentum and they continue to do the right steps, while this other medium, they don't. Guess what? In the end, the team or the person with the less talent who understands momentum and does the right habits, they'll bring even more talent out of themselves. Because look, at the moment you might have less talent, but guess what? All of us have infinite talent within us. And if we use this law of momentum and we do the right habits on a continuous basis daily, we could bring more of it out of us.
That's so true. That's so true. And I feel like that's important with every area of your life. And I think one of the action steps they can take is to just choose one area in your life right now that you would like to focus a little bit more attention on. You want to put some more consistency into it. And I would say to create maybe, I would say 3 pieces to consistency. So just say it's working out. And I'm not the expert in this area, but like Tony says, maybe you work out 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week, and then you add, I don't know, 6 bottles of water every day. So you can actually track your water. Download an app that you can track the water, add in some exercise. I don't know what the third thing would be. Add in like a piece of fruit a day or something.
Yeah, like maybe for breakfast, I'm going to eat an apple a day.
Yeah.
To keep the doctor away. Or whatever it is. It's just something simple that feels right to you that you know you're going to do. Don't overwhelm yourself. That's why I love that you said just pick one thing, because that's what this is all about. You don't have to like go all day long and like trying to fix everything. Like that sounds boring to me and like not fun. Like I like having fun too. But pick one thing, like Lindsay said, and just change one little thing, because when you do that, when you change one area in your life, it makes changing the next area easier.
Yeah, it does.
So, and another thing is the reason why is because when you change one area in your life, you're actually changing all areas in your life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, so we hope that you enjoy this episode, and we cannot wait to see you on the next one.
See you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.